I just can't take no pleasure in killing. Just some things you gotta do. Don't mean you have to like.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
You want to know what happens to an eyeball when it gets punctured? You got any idea how much blood jets out of a guy's neck when his throat's been slit?
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
What up, everyone? DJ Nubis with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tony the Dead. We are here with a brand new series we're doing every week called The Ghouls of Midnight, where we alternate between picking movies. We review them for your viewing pleasure. And this time around, Mr. Tony has suggested 1986 Summer Camp Nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
Directed by Burt Dragon. And the cast is Chuck Connors plays Mr. Warren, who I'm a big fan of Chuck from Tourist Trap, which is an amazing movie, by the way. Samantha Newark as Debbie. Charlie Stratton as Franklin Riley. And then the other pretty much notable name is Stuart Rogers as Stanley Runk, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Mhm.
The plot of this is at Camp North Pines for boys, the campers led by the charismatic Franken Riley stage a revolt against the strict owner, Mr. Warren, and lock him and the rest of the counselors up and take over the camp for themselves. But the revolt soon spirals out of control as the boys also lead a takeover of a nearby girls' camp as well. And then Mr. Warren is accidentally killed trying to escape. Friction soon happens between the two boys and girls' camps, which only one camper, a certain Donald Poultry, tries to get the word out and unseat Franklin as the leader. As Neko said when we watched this, it reminded her a little bit of Lord of the Flies in some ways. So,
Yep.
let's start. Just Tony, like, what made you want to pick this film? What is it about this film that you really like?
I don't know what it is. It just has this like kind of charm to me. I like the 80s. I like the cheesiness in it. When I went to my first VHS convention, it was the first movie I bought. I have it up there. I forgot to bring it down, but the original price was like $80 for it. And I just remember seeing the cover, and I don't remember seeing it when I was little. If I did, I just don't remember it. But like, it just like it was drawn to me. I'm like, this looks cool, you know. And Summer Camp Nightmare, it sounds like a slasher, camp slasher, but it's not. Which I think was another thing that surprised me, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good for not being a slasher. I mean, I love camp slashers, but like
it's
it's
kind of
more,
like those
more
kind of
than-
like horror elements, but it's a little bit more thriller and drama.
yeah, it's like what would happen if the adults got taken away and now the juveniles are in charge, like pretty much what this would happen. It's also based after the book, the butterfly something. I can't remember what it is. It's based off a book, and yeah, I honestly don't know. The first time I saw this, I was just like, wow, this like really hit me because
The Butterfly Revolution. Okay.
Revolution, yeah, the Butterfly Revolution, which I haven't read, but I want to. I heard the book is obviously way different because the movie they went with the times and everything, and the cheesiness and everything. Like, look at my name, beef, bologna, which is another part all on its own. But like, yeah, it kind of like is a little scary at times too, because it's like if this really happened, like especially what happens to a certain guy that kind of does something to a girl that he shouldn't.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out. To this day, seeing that scene, like I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but like that, it's like it looks real, like it looks.
Well,
like,
you made a good point. Like, obviously, when this whole thing starts out, of course, I'm just going to play some of the footage while we're talking about it. But it shows up. It almost reminds me some ways of sort of the beginning of Piranha. Like, you got the camp and all this other stuff, but then you added in the fact that during the time of the 80s when you had Friday the 13th and all this other stuff going on, they tried to spice this up to make it sound like it was going to be another like slasher serial killer type thing, but it's actually its own thing. Like, it's got a whole different vibe, despite some similarities to either, like I said, Friday the 13th or Burning in terms of the camp atmosphere, but it is a lot different. And we talked about it off screen, like a little bit about kids. It's got some similarities there where once the adults are out of the picture, the kids run rampant. They just kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Now, in this case, you've got different stages of kids. So you got the older kids who are taking over, and then the younger ones are just kind of going with the flow because they don't know any better. They kind of idolize or worship these older kids because they're cool or whatever. And so
and they're counselors too, so they just think they have to do what they do. Some of them are CITs, counselors in training, like Runk.
Yeah, so you see Runk there on the left with the bushy hair. there's a scene that will come up in this video collage where they're doing like a talent show, and obviously I think it's a guy next to him too. They're both playing guitar and bass, and they're rocking out to get that old 80s like glam rock look at the times. And
Yeah.
the lyrics are very exotic. Same with the girls. They start doing this like sexy Madonna-esque like dance scene and stuff. And
Yeah.
you have to understand that Mr. Warren, played by Connors, is like this super
Oh, yeah.
religious, straight ahead dude, and he wants the camp to be nice, clean, fun, PMRC style. And so basically, this talent show's going on, and then like all of a sudden he's like, okay, that's enough. And then we're not going to have the dancing, but he used to have like this like little prom dance or whatever they do between both camps, the girls' camp and this one.
Yeah.
And Warren's like, no, it's not going to happen anymore. Like, he's pissed off that they've done these like obscene gestures and songs and talking. And that, of course, pisses off Franklin, who was our main guy right there, who decides upon himself. He talks to a young boy who doesn't really elaborate what happened with Mr. Warren, but the impression is Mr. Warren was kitty touching. That was the idea.
Yeah.
And so Franklin's like really
right
pissed
here.
off. Yep, this is the moment. And this is where Franklin's kind of like, okay, well, we need to do something about this. And so they eventually end up taking Mr. Warren and the rest of the counselors by gunpoint and putting them into like a shed or something. Of course, this is after they've locked up. I forget who the guy was they locked up originally for something, but
Chris Wade.
Chris. Yeah, so they felt it was unfair that Chris was locked up in this shed. And so this sort of leads to this revolt along with this here.
Yeah, he got locked up because they met up with the girls that they liked from the other camp.
Yeah.
They're in what's the camp called? Camp North Pines.
Yeah.
And the girls are Camp South Pines. So they go to the girls' camp, and he makes out with her on this table, and then he gets caught, and then he gets put in a thing. He's going to get sent home, and they think it's like unfair because, like you said, he's religious as hell. That's funny. And and like the TV even just had a religious channel on it, and
reminds me of my boarding school back in the day.
Oh, God. I went to Catholic school till 3rd grade.
Oh, wow.
And I hated it. I think that's another reason. I mean, I know it's another reason why I like nunsploitation, because I like seeing nuns get what they deserve sometimes.
Oh, God, you just gave me an idea for a movie down the road. Oh, my God.
Not a nunsploitation.
Oh, it is.
Oh, no. I'll say, yeah, I love nunsploitation movies. So
I'm not sure you've seen this one, but certainly something worth checking out. But yeah, this movie obviously deals with some of that. And again, it's like kind of like the whole like 80s rock versus the PMRC type thing, where religion was a big thing in the 80s, trying to censor metal music because that was the big thing at the time.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of just following his footsteps a little bit in terms of like indecent dancing together or indecent songs and stuff. So they end up putting away the counselors, and then they go ahead. Franklin's like, we're going to go ahead and have our dance. And so they do it, of course, without the counselors there. And, technically it's fine. They're not really getting super crazy, except for one guy decides to spike the punch, gets one girl a little bit loosey-goosey, and she starts dancing provocatively with like our token black boy here who's in this film. And much chagrin to him, he loses out on that because Runk comes along, I think, and steals her away. But
Trixie. That was Trixie.
Trixie, Dixie, yep.
Yeah, she's a cutie.
That she is. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just a few of those there. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just looking up because I know that John Fidley, he's the guy who was, Runk's friend. What is his name in it?
I'm
terrible.
So Donald is the blondie. He's the one that's
he's the little kid. He's a kid.
He's a little kid. Okay.
Yeah.
But Harold Pruitt is Chris Wade. That Chris is the main guy. Okay.
Okay, it's John Mason. That's
so you're right.
John.
Tom Fidley is John Mason. So
he's actually John Travolta's nephew.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. And
Very
he was in
nice.
Friday the 13th, part 6. Apparently, he was in The Karate Kid, like
Yeah,
briefly
he's
and
actually
stuff.
one of.
So,
Yeah, I think he's one of Johnny's buddies in that one. I think.
but it's like he's like not a main buddy. He's just kind of in
No,
there.
right.
But yeah, he's in this. And like, let me tell you, if I could be looking like a guy in the 80s, it would be Tom Fidley. I think he just, and I'm not, you know, man crush or anything, but I just think like he has like this charm and he's a good looking guy and everything. It's just like if I could be anybody in the 80s, like except for in this movie, I guess I'd be him.
Yeah, he's not a good dude in this one.
No, but like I just like I always like him, seeing him in movies, and like I think I'm still friends with him on Facebook, but like you know, he seems like a normal person.
Oh, so
And
you actually befriended him in real
yeah,
life?
but I don't really talk to him. Like when I say a happy birthday or like, you know, like, hey, I loved you in summer camp nightmare, but other than that, I haven't really talked to him. But I know he does conventions and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that his real name is Adam Carl, that Donald, the little kid. He has like
Hmm.
the worst name. Donald Poultry.
Yeah.
And they call him Duck.
Ducky.
But he's super smart. That's another thing that pissed off Mr. Warren because of the TV. They were like, well, you know, we heard you can rig something up, you know, change the channels. Yeah, I got to get on the roof. And he
Yeah,
goes up
Donald's like
there
the
and
modern day hacker. He can
yeah,
rework computer stuff and
he like opens up a
rewind the TV.
suitcase. He has a
Yeah.
phone in there, a little recorder, which he does with Runk. That was his intro to Runk. He got on his bad side right away.
Yeah.
That was funny,
But
but
yeah,
like
he reworks the TV to get a little bit of skin from the girlie on the TV, and the guys are going nuts, and
a
it's a
little
big
weird and
deal.
crazy though, right? Like
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh my god!" Like who does that? That's the cringe part of this movie, like that kind of stuff. The talent show is just complete cringe, but I like it.
Yes.
It's funny.
It's even I could imagine trying to do talent shows back then like that, even as a teen. Like I'd get booted off the stage right away, and not even by the religious right. They'd be like, "Dude, this is not appropriate."
Right? Oh
Runk's like
man.
grabbing his crotch and shit, and I'm like, "Oh boy." Uh, but yeah, so the dance starts to happen, and it's fine at the beginning. You know, everyone's just kind of having a good time, and then this is where I kind of feel like they make the whole mistake just from the beginning. This is when they start trying to drag out Mr. Warren tied up,
Yep.
and they're mocking him, and they're just trying to like insult him. As like, you know, you kind of had it your way. You guys just could have left him in there for a couple of days and then let him back out. But you know, Franklin's gotten this ego, and then the other guys are kind of like they're not on very short leashes. They just do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
And this is where we bring in Warren, and they start insulting. Of course, Trixie's doing her little seductive dance with them, and finally Chris comes in and he's like, you know, this is not cool, man. Like you can't be doing this. And this starts leading to like the separation of packs. And
Mm-hmm.
Franklin's like, well, Chris is now the enemy. He's on the intercom telling the camp that, you know, you don't talk to him. And I forget the girl's name, Samantha, I think maybe is the girl.
Debbie.
Debbie. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so really Chris and Debbie and maybe a couple others are the only ones that are kind of sane still, like knowing that this isn't really the way to go about things. While the rest of the camp, they enjoy the freedom and the recklessness and everything. But as Ronk starts to take Mr. Warren back to the holding cell they made for him or have for him, Warren tries to escape and there's a fight that ensues, but Ronk has like a pocket knife and he pulls it out and ends up stabbing Warren, even though he claims it's an accident. I mean, he pulled it out for a reason.
I think Runk, he's an idiot. I think he just
He's a
did it
big
to
time
scare him. And I mean, because it really was an accident, but like Warren ran into it and he's like, oh my God. And then
I think
guys,
part of the problem is that Ronk also has like a very short temper. So like,
oh yeah,
you know,
very
so that
short.
kind of leads to him getting into trouble all sorts of different ways. But yeah, he ends up killing Warren, in which he reports back to Franklin. And you can tell Franklin's like, fuck, this is bad. But then, again, he's enjoying his power.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, all right, we gotta go get rid of the body. Like, just go dump it. And I guess there's like a local cave nearby somehow, some way. And eventually
They never show Warren again after that.
No.
You just hear about, oh, what's that smell? So you know it's him, but like you don't show it. But yeah, I think if he didn't die, he definitely, because he was planning on like, oh, tomorrow we'll have unlock them and everything will go back to normal. Maybe after just one day they'll be pissed, but like maybe it won't be so bad. But then that happens, and it's like you said, like, what do I do? Well, we're here. Let's just ride it out.
Exactly. But that's the funny thing about Franklin is he never really looked at the long game. Like the long game tells you, what are you going to do once your fun is over? Like, what is your plan here? Just to say Warren took off? That's not going to happen. No one's going to believe that.
No.
And then you got the other counselors still locked away. So, what are you doing here?
And they were actually nice counselors. They're the ones who like the kids liked and everything. Nobody liked Warren, but everybody liked the counselors. Even the coach, who was an alcoholic, apparently. Yeah. And it's like, but Franklin, he's a likable villain, but he's psychotic. Like he's really like when a duck can't swim, there's a scene, and nobody's paying attention to it, and he's like starts to drown, and I don't know why I'm laughing, but like Franklin like just looks up and he like looks around and nobody's looking. He just like looks at him, like starts smiling. He does that a bunch of times in the movie, like when he's like, as if he's like, I have the power here. If they see me doing this, one, Duck will do what I want him to do, and two, people are gonna see me as the hero and everything. That's how I look at it.
Exactly what because he saw it was going to unravel. He saw that Ducky was in the water. And he said to himself, I'm going to use this, saving this kid, as a piece of a way to basically, he owes me when I go to do what I need to do.
Right.
Even though he doesn't really know what that is at that point, but he knows that kid's going to owe him his life. And so jumps in, because at first you think he's just going to let him drown.
Yeah.
But then he jumps in, saves them, and everyone's like, Franklin, great job, and Ducky like appreciated it and all that good stuff. But that was the setup for that. But as time goes on, we notice even after Warren's death, Franklin is now creating set rules. They use that bridge that you saw in the video clip where it's very broken up, and it's like you can kill yourself trying to cross it, which Franklin was testing his metal, I guess, early in the film. Before he kind of got in trouble by the counselor about taking that risk. But that was this would come into a play in terms of our boy Mason. So we'll get there in a minute. So again, Warren's gone. He's out of the picture. Franklin's taken over. He's got his rule book, and people need to follow it.
And nobody knows this either. Nobody knows Warren's dead except for Franklin, Runk.
Yep.
And that's it.
Did Mason go with them or no when they went to take the body away? Because I don't think Runk would have got there by himself unless it was Franklin who helped. I can't remember.
I think it was just Runk, because it was just them two in the office, and he sent Runk take his body and put him in the caves.
Okay.
So he probably thought the less people know, the better too.
That's true. Yeah. So then we start getting to a point where obviously these boys have certain girls they're interested in. And Mason, of course, I forget the girl that he was involved with initially, the one that's...
Oh, or maybe that wasn't Debbie.
Is it Heather, maybe? Is Heather the girl?
I think... Was it Heather?
I think so. She looks like... No, Heather's the one that was with Chris.
I was wrong. Then that one was Debbie.
So Debbie's the one that Mason's... Okay.
Yeah, and Heather was the one that went with
Chris.
Chris Wade.
And then Trixie was with Rock, so we had to put them all together.
Yeah.
They're all like little pairs. So yeah, Heather is with Mason, and they're kind of walking about, and Mason wants to kiss and neck with her and stuff, and eventually, of course, he wants to get laid. That's his game. That's what they want to do.
Yeah.
She doesn't quite want to go that far, and we kind of know where this is going to lead to, where he forces himself on her, and Donald and his little girlfriend at the time that they're running around out in the woods in the middle of the night, hear like screams. So they come running up and they see her on the ground. And of course, Mason's standby treating like he didn't do shit. He's like, must have been the fastest pants zip up I ever saw. But the following day, we now have Heather and a few others that are accusing Mason of rape. Franklin trying to be judge, jury, and executioner here. Needs to come up with a plan because he knows he can't just side one way or the other, or else it's going to look bad for him. So he's going to try to do this as diplomatically as he can. Yeah. This is where the bridge comes back into play. Now, technically, Debbie should have just been kind of like to really piss off Mason.
It wasn't 9 inches.
I was like, what just happened?
Right. I had to throw that in there. I always love that little bit. So Franklin tells Mason, okay, you're going to have to go out on this bridge and then come back. And it's basically like you're risking your life to prove your innocence, which I don't know why you thought. Yeah.
It's stupid.
It is.
You don't even go all the way across. He just goes over like halfway and then come back. It's a rickety bridge, you can't walk on it, but like there's ropes. I don't understand. Like that'll prove. Then they said that'll prove your innocence. No, it doesn't.
People are like throwing rocks at him, trying to get him to fall.
Yeah, they're like watching him, and
which comes into play later though, because I was really surprised at a part of the end with this, but. So Mason makes it back despite the rock throwing and everything. And now he's like, I'm innocent, man. I just did this. I proved my innocence. And at first you think it's just going to be like, okay, so he got away with it. And now everyone's going to be angry on the girl's side and the people that were siding with Debbie. But then like Franklin walks away and his group picks up Mason and just starts carrying him out to the woods. I'm like, holy shit, they're going to lynch his ass.
Yep. Yeah, like every girl from the camp just picked him up, and he's like struggling. And in my head, I'm thinking, how could you not fight them off? But I'm like, well, there is about 20 to 30 of them. So
there was quite a few.
There was a bunch of them. They took him, and it was like a bunch of ants carrying a piece of food.
Which I kind of like though, because this is the thing about this movie. You would think that when you're watching it, it's really only the guys that would do violent and very deplorable things. So here we have girls actually becoming vigilantes and doing it themselves. So despite the fact that Mason was guilty of rape, what they did was equally wrong in the sense of the law. Like, I don't care because I think, hey, you got justice. But in terms of reality, like this would be very wrong, even from a girl's standpoint. So obviously at some point, Donald's out in the woods again, comes across Mason's body hanging from a tree, which scares him, of course. He now realizes the girls actually killed him and reports back. And I forget what he even said to Mason. I think he actually went to look for Chris. I think
he was out looking for Chris.
Yeah,
and he's screaming, and he fell, like he ran down this, and then he like was like right under him, and he found a shoe first, and he's like, what the heck?
Yeah,
because before that he was saying like the girls just picked him up and took him off, and we haven't seen him in days. And this weird thing is nobody seems to care. Like, where is he?
Franklin didn't either, apparently. Like, I think he kind of knew, like they just took care of it. Yeah, that's how he looked at it.
And they hung him up in the woods somewhere, and he was goner. And I think that image is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's not real, but it looks real. Okay. And he
looked all disheveled. Like, the shoe was off. They must have roughed him up a little bit on his way up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's funny because this film does not have a lot of gore or anything. So, but the moments, you know, at least with that one, like you just said, is pretty realistic and terrifying in its own. So, and
Yeah.
again, if you're looking at it, because it is more of like a thriller drama. So, if you're, you know, obviously Kids is a much better made movie in total package, but the feeling is kind of the same. Like you just have kids out of control
Yeah.
doing some pretty bad things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, you said in the beginning about Lord of the Flies. A lot of
mm,
people say I thought Lord of the Flies as well. Some even said Animal House mixed with, and I was like, I never saw Animal House, but I really don't think this is like Animal House
no, it's
because
definitely more Lord of the Flies.
it's like
Mainly because there's not like you can argue that like the talent show and stuff like that's kind of comedy, but it's not the same kind of comedy as Animal House at all. It's just
no,
it's meant to be like a striking point against Warren and his high morals and stuff. So
yeah,
uh it's not it's closer to Lord of the Flies than anything because you just got kids running rampant and you know, even though it's a little bit tame in terms of what they could do,
oh yeah,
uh it's still pretty brutal from that point of view.
it kind of reminds you too, like of except it is a comedy, like Heavyweights, where they take over the camp and they lock up the counselors and that they go crazy and then like that. But that's what happened with this, except nobody got killed. I mean, somebody got killed in this, which you don't see the knife, you just know the puncture and that, and Runk turns into like such a child. He's like
Mhm.
crying, like he's not a big tough guy anymore. He's scared to death, which is like I like that too because it shows you how vulnerable he really is. He's just a kid. He he looks like he's like way, you know. I guess he doesn't look older, but like he's supposed to be older, like a teenager.
Mhm.
And so you forget that there actually are kids because Franklin looks older than he really is. He's probably like 18. And honestly, I think he probably thought he would get away with all this because his parents are rich and everything. So he's probably like I'll just get a lawyer and get out of this.
Well, Franklin also he also puts off this kind of and it's kind of funny because he's really quite smart.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in charge of this whole thing. Like he's running this group, but if you ever notice it's mainly everyone else doing the dirty deed. So if it came down to cops coming, he can just say, "No, fucking Rock killed him. I didn't." Or the
Yeah.
girl killed Mason. It wasn't me.
Well,
So
I thought that too, but he's the one who pulled the gun out and
well,
put
you
them
can
in.
argue he
So
pulled a gun out, but he didn't fire it. You
we
know, but
fired in the air.
that's like yeah, that's like a misdemeanor though compared to the other shit these kids are doing.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
think that I think he was looking at it from a long, as far as that is concerned, like if shit goes south, I'm not guilty. I was just look, I was trying to have some fun, and these
mhm,
kids like Runk and them went out of control, man. They started doing bad shit.
yeah. If anything, he'd probably get kidnapping,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But endangering the lives of children too would be another thing. But yeah, it's a wild movie. A lot happens. It's only what like hour and a half or something like that. But like a lot happens in it, and it's a fun movie. The point where they start taking are about to like, okay, this is when we're doing it, is they have the kids play as the counselors and it's like reverse day and
Yeah,
which is kind of funny. And they like the guy, I can't remember his name, but he's the only black like older kid in it. And he starts saying, what can I do? He's playing Mr. Warren. He's playing the part of Mr. Warren, and he's like, what else can I grant? And they're like, free Chris Wade,
mhm.
free Chris Wade. And that's when everything started happening. And then that's when it started hitting the fan. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be fun. Like we're going to have fun. We're going to party and just have a night, that we deserved because he took it away. And then, because that guy was a little too sensitive. I mean, you could be religious if you want, but like they're kids. Even the girl at the girls' counselor, like she's like, "Oh well, we could do things without the boys," and like she's like, "Well, that's all the fun. That's what the part of fun about as the boys. The girls were like laughing about it, but he was just too worried about his butterfly collection. Plus, everybody thought he was doing things with that
Yeah,
kid.
yeah.
And then
And that's how Franklin tried to justify. He's like, this guy was doing crazy shit to this kid, which ended up not even being true.
yeah.
So that was another thing that later on you find out that it's like, oh shit. But
He said
eventually
he held him
Donald,
up. He held him up and he was afraid. He held him up too long to look
yeah,
at butterflies. Which, why do you have to hold him up to look at butterflies? I don't get that. So in my head, I kind of think he might have.
it's possible.
Yeah.
And again, they don't really lead anything to the character with Warren doing that. But
Yeah.
when we talk about other movies or even real life, like the Catholic Church, it's not uncommon. Like this shit
Yeah.
does actually happen to where that could happen.
Yeah.
But it's not really alluded to in this film. It's supposed to be meant that he's just a very uber religious guy who doesn't like crazy shit. Can't handle which is weird because unless you're going to hold like a camp that's strictly religious and you're doing like prayer meetings and all this other stuff, when it's something that's like a normal camp for kids to just cut loose,
Yeah.
that kind of counselor is probably not the best one for that.
Yeah.
Because
Definitely not.
they're coming in looking like, oh, we don't have our parents here. We're going to have fun. That's how they look
Yeah.
at it.
I mean, it's summer camp. That's what they're there for.
Right.
You just
So
cruise it
anyway,
down.
Donald ends up doing his little hacking job with the phone, tries to put out a message to the local police or wherever he can get to tell them that shit's gone awry at the camp.
Yeah.
Doesn't really know if he gets through or not. And of course, he gets caught by another one of the Franklin's good goons. And now he and, Chris and the rest are all facing like this. Well, actually, Donald's facing the bridge and he can't do it. He's not strong enough to handle something like that. He would definitely fall. This is where Chris and Heather show up and they're going to stop this. So there's like this big fight now that it ensues between all the one camp versus the other in terms of trying to unseat Franklin because he's a tyrannical asshole.
Yeah.
And again, Ronk fighting Chris, like pulls out his knife again.
Yeah.
I guess he feels more invincible this time since he got away with Warren's death, even though he's not really going to get away with it.
He got over Warren really fast.
Yeah, he did. And that probably a lot to do with Franklin, like saying it's going to be okay. But this is the part of the movie where I'm like, this doesn't kind of make sense, but, I just run with it. But somehow Ronk gets thrown over into the pit, wherever that, how long it is. You never really see how far it is, but he gets thrown where usually people are worried about falling too.
Yeah.
So you're thinking he's gone, he's dead. Soon the police arrive. They see everybody fighting. They break it up. They're separating people. And of course, Donald kept recordings of everything what was going on, which is smart. He's a genius of the bunch.
Yeah.
The cops take that as evidence. They arrest Franklin and Ronk. They find him. He's still alive somehow.
Yeah, he coming out. He goes, "You're lucky to be alive."
Right, and I'm like, so everyone was worried about falling, but Ronk gets thrown. He has no control of that fall. Like he just gets thrown.
He gets kicked by Chris.
Yeah,
backwards.
Right.
And everybody's like, "Oh my god!" It's like, "Oh my god, he just killed him!" Like, wow, that's
right,
crazy.
And so he's still alive, but he gets arrested. And
yeah,
there was a part of me that thought this movie might end with Franklin somehow finding a way out of there, like just sneaking away and getting away, which would have been kind of a nice little touch. It would have thrown like a little twist at the end, like he's not quite caught yet.
Yeah,
Which could have let the opening for a sequel if they had planned to go that route. But I don't even know how this movie did in the box office or anything.
I'm not sure. I know it. It was only in like select theaters. It wasn't like a big, like worldwide or anything. It was just in select theaters, and then it was on VHS and Laserdisc, and it's still not even on DVD. There is a DVD on eBay that you could buy, but it's like a burned one, like not a real copy.
Probably transferred it from VHS or something.
Yeah. Which it is on YouTube if you want to watch it, and I think it looks just fine. I mean, it's kind of VHS quality, but like, it's not a dark movie. So
Nah, YouTube
you know,
actually, because that's how I watched it, was on YouTube, and it actually looks pretty good. It's
yeah,
clear.
yeah, it's
So
not
it
bad.
makes you wonder. We were talking about before. This would be nice or something good for Vinegar Syndrome to pick up and try to do because no one's done it yet, and it's one of
Yeah,
those movies that's kind of floating out there.
100%.
Rotten Tomatoes only has like a 41% audience score, but I think it's much better than that, really, to be honest. Uh, it's obviously dated. You know, you're going to see a lot of old haircuts and shit like that. But it's the 80s. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
But it's actually a much more mature approach to like a horror film, if you want to call it that, than some of the other stuff. Like you could argue a lot of the Friday the 13th is a lot worse story wise than this one. This one at least had something kind of going for it. It's still a little bit jumbled here and there, but overall, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. If I had to rank it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7. I think a 7 is a pretty fair bet. So 70% for me would be a pretty fair bet.
I think I'd probably say the same. I didn't say what I about Reptilicus, but I think it speaks for itself because you rated Reptilicus, but I forgot to. But yeah, rating this, I'd say 7 out of 10 as well. I still like it. I've watched it a bunch of times now, and I still enjoy it. Still hits me the same spots. Yeah, I mean, I know that Chuck Connors guy is a main, like he's been in a lot of stuff, but I'll be honest, I've never seen him until this movie. Like I know he's in
Did you ever
Tourist
see
Trap.
Tourist Trap?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You might see that as a future fucking pick.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
It's
But
actually
like,
quite a good movie, very underrated. In fact, I think I'm trying to remember her name. Tanya Roberts, I think, is in that as well.
I
Now
know
he's most known for his role as the rifleman, which was like a 60s series or something.
yeah, I was gonna say. So I looked on the IMDb and I was like, I've heard of them, but I haven't seen them. Rifleman, he's in Geronimo or something from back in the
Something like,
day.
he did. Yeah, in fact, I think that was nowadays they'd probably get him for cultural appropriation there. But
yeah.
what are you going to do? Back then, you just didn't have a lot more control over that.
Yeah.
All right, so we know in 2 weeks your movie is going to be The Curve with Matthew Lillard as your pick.
Yeah.
Going into next week, I am going to get Tony because I know either it's on YouTube, obviously, but I think he has either a VHS or DVD. So I think it's VHS because we've talked about this in the past, and it's going to be 1988's The Kiss with Joanna Pacula and Meredith Salinger. So this is on YouTube. I highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't seen it. It's one that I think still holds up well, much like Summer Camp Nightmare. I think it still does well with that. So that's our pick going into next week. And you got anything else coming up for yourself, my friend?
Well, after we're done recording here, I'm probably gonna do my record my unboxing of what's already unboxed. It's been sitting here on the shelf, but of my Severance stuff. I just want to like make a quick video of it. But just make sure that they know that when we watch The Kiss or when we review The Kiss, it's going to be on this channel, but The Curve is going to be on my channel. So you got to alternate back and forth.
Okay, so do you want to just do it that way, where if I choose something that's on my channel, if you choose it's on your channel? Okay.
Yeah. I think like we can alternate every other week. Like this, last week was mine. This is yours. I think that would be good. That way, if people.
So do you want to do The Kiss on your channel next week?
No. Next week is The Curve.
Okay. No, next week is Kiss. This was your pick. My pick's the next week.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so yeah, we could do.
But we can just make it where like if I make a pick, it's on my channel, but if you make a pick, it's on yours.
That's true. Well, if next week is mine, then it would be The Curve.
2 weeks is yours. So, like last week, I chose.
Oh yeah, this is confusing because you picked Reptilicus. I picked this. So then, okay, it would be The Kiss on mine. You're right. I got so confused there.
That's okay. I'll keep you straight.
And you're older than me. You're older. I don't get it. Oh, no kids. No kids. That's what it is.
No kids. As far as my channel,
Yeah.
tomorrow I'm going to be doing my top 10 Korean films rankings. Fridays are going to be a busy day because I will be with Mr. Tony again for the Poltergeist franchise on the Entertainment headquarters with Kevin Lambert, Anthony Jordan. I think Kurt from Metal Mania will be on there as well. Then later on in the evening, I'll be with Sci-Fi Century to review the movie Underworld.
Oh.
Saturday, I will be on Fat Samurai Guy's channel doing the Dr. Giggles review.
Mm.
And then next week, Thursday, the 22nd, Cinematic Synergy will return with Kevin Lambert and I as we review Billy Jack. Of course, Wednesday, he and I will be reviewing The Kiss.
Yeah.
And then Friday, I will have Mr. Tony again, hopefully, with Sci-Fi, Anthony Jordan, Big Bad Wolf to review Brotherhood of the Wolf, one of my all-time favorite films. So, and I think I'm going to do that one live. So people that want to come in and chat with that, we can do that. So
you're gonna have to remind me of, like, send me a message about that. There's so much stuff going on.
Yeah, I know
like,
you wanted busy. I got you busy now.
No, I'm fine with it. It's just like I'm not used to it, you know.
Yeah. I know how it goes.
But
yeah,
I mean,
so a lot of shit coming up.
I mean, this you're probably going to be putting this up right after this. We're done
Very
recording.
close. Yeah.
I was very slow at putting mine up. A lot of shit going on and all that
Well,
stuff.
people have to just be reminded that you kind of run yours a little different. You do a lot more editing, which is nice. Like that's your way of doing things. So people shouldn't fear if it's not up like right away. So just keep in mind, we work a little bit different on how we present the videos, but he's going to have his own intro for, even though it's the same series, it's going to be his own intro on his channel, and how he edits it is the way he does it. So it'll be up and he'll get better at it, and I'm sure he'll get up faster than usual. But so it's a matter of just practice at this point.
Yeah, I'm a little rusty. I want to make an intro, but I don't know. Like
you don't want as long as mine.
No, I don't. But I want to like make sure that like I don't get screwed with copyright or anything too.
Well, one thing I told Kevin was the best way to test that is make your intro, even if you're just doing the video part first, upload it to YouTube privately. If it doesn't get any dings, that means it's good. Like a lot of times you'll get it saying copyright, but the copyright allows the footage to be used. That's fine. Yeah. And then, but if you're going to use any kind of music or anything with it, then put it together, put it up there, see if it passes, and then do that. If there's any issues privately, it will tell you like, oh, this is what happened. You got to take this out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's how I usually test it, just because, I did have it one time happen where I played an intro as I was doing live and they shut me down immediately. I think it was Facebook though. I don't think it was YouTube. I think it was Facebook that shut me down.
Yeah.
Because I was either using a piece of footage or something that they didn't like. And so you have to be careful with that.
Right.
So I always try to test everything that I do.
Speaking of your intro, what song is that, in case anybody wants to know? Because that's pretty fucking banging.
Yeah, so that is from a band called Necrophagia. They've been around since the 80s, but
oh wow,
the singer Killjoy passed away 2 or 3 years ago, I think, and the song is called Reborn in Black Mass, and so I always thought that was a nice little fit. I might try to do a little bit more editing in the early part of it, because I have some longer videos that I should cut down a little more, so I add a little bit more stuff in there, but overall, it looks good. I love the song a lot, and it felt the vibe of what we're doing. So
it did. I'm like jamming out to the song.
I saw that too.
I was like, I want to ask him. It's a good thing I remembered. I want to say who made that, because I know you have good taste in music. So
of course. All right, for those that follow us, please hit the like button, subscribe. Definitely go and check out this gentleman's channel and like and subscribe for him. Yeah, I know, I get back.
Oh God,
it's horrible. Yeah. So if you have any comments, if you've seen this film, please let us know what your thoughts are. Would you like to see a remake of this in any way, even though you probably did stuff similar to it at some point? But yeah, give us your thoughts, and we will see you next week with the Ghouls of Midnight.